All right, so with Cooper Rush, what I would say is this is a guy that in 2022 he stepped in the lineup. This was when the Eagles last saw him, was during that Super Bowl season in 2022. They beat him at Lincoln Financial Field. And when you look at Rush, he came in and he executed Kellen Moore's offense pretty high level back that point. They won 4 straight games with him under center. He did a really good job of just playing within the scheme.
Man, I don't remember that at all. They won 4 in a row.
They won 4, right? Yeah. Well, that was like a big thing because is Dak Prescott really the guy? Look at this kid. He's coming in and he's running the system really well.
It's good for Kellen Moore too. It boosted his stock until it didn't. Yeah.
And he got immediately fired.
Until Mike McCarthy's like, give me the team back.
Yeah. Which did you hear his quotes about that this week?
McCarthy's? I did not.
He basically said, yeah, if I were doing it over, I probably wouldn't have allowed Kellen. Essentially, I'm putting words in his mouth, but essentially, I wouldn't have let Kellen just run his offense. I would have run my offense from Jump Street, which I thought that was interesting.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was
not. I wouldn't have let him go.
No,
really?
It was. As a new coach coming in, you want to run your system.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
I think that was part of the deal when he was hired, right?
Yes,
exactly.
Kellen Moore,
yes.
Right?
Yeah, I can say the Kellen Moore tweets that I put out this week haven't got any traction in Philly as much, but it's being eaten up a bit in Dallas. I think this is a bigger story in Dallas than it is in Philly.
In what way? How are the fans reacting? How are the fans in Dallas reacting?
What?
I think the people in Philly might be a little more distracted than the people in Dallas when your tweets come to mind. That's all.
I'm staying away from that. There's a lot of commentary there. So because I think it was polarizing when they let Kellen Moore go.
Sure.
Kellen Moore was popular for a period of time there in Dallas. Now I don't know how well it ended because his teams didn't necessarily perform in the postseason. They did have success last year without him.
Yeah.
But Kellen Moore was like he was on the verge of being a head coach at one point, it seemed like, right? And he passed up some primo opportunities in college to stay with the Cowboys. He was a player there. He was there for 8 years, I believe. I mean, Tony Romo was calling this game. Kellen Moore was Tony Romo's backup with the Cowboys, right? And think about how long Tony Romo's been out of the league. So I think the Kellen Moore name carries a little more traction in Dallas than it does in Philly.
The other thing McCarthy said was that he could see watching Kellen with the Chargers last year. He's like, yeah, that's a lot of what we did in Dallas together. And then this year in Philly, it's much more of what we've seen in Philly in the past. Yeah. So I thought that was a really interesting nugget there.
You think that's like a chess move, not a checkers move? He's saying that to foment the idea that this is not Kellen's offense?
Right. It's like the John Schneider thing where he lobbed the Drew Lock. Oh, Drew Lock, he left us to be a starter in New York. Just to throw a bomb at the New York media. But no, I think that
would be the coolest thing Mike McCarthy's ever done.
Yeah, I would.
Besides spending a day at Pro Football Focus,
the second most
analytics,
yes.
Mojo moments.
All right, so Cooper Rush. Executed the offense really well. When he is kept clean, I thought that he did a really good job of just kind of going through the progressions, letting the offense play for him, and even going back and watching this past week, he played the whole fourth quarter against the Atlanta Falcons in that loss. And this is a guy that looks comfortable in that situation when he's able to be kept clean. Now, when you are able to pressure him early, you get you could fool him with stunts and with blitzes, and you get the defenders in his face early. You speed up his whole process, and he can really get rushed. And I didn't even mean to do that, but you can really rush through that process.
You're like Scott Boras.
Yeah. Well, he can speed that process up, and that's where things can kind of go awry for him a little bit. He can still make some off-platform throws, and he had like a no-look pass stepping up in the pocket last week, where he's got some of that to him. But
that is insane sauce in that situation for him.
He's not like a great athlete. His arm, he's kind of a moonshot thrower in terms of him trying to push the ball down the field. He doesn't have a ton of juice to his arm, but he's pretty accurate. He'll navigate a muddy pocket pretty well, but if you can get pressure to him, that's where you can create some of those negative play opportunities.
Okay. And so aside from Cooper Rush, assuming they get CeeDee Lamb back, and if they don't,
which he's banged up, left the game this past Sunday.
Tough sledding, but is it as simple as That's all they got.
If CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, he is their pass game. And nearly 50% of the target share when they came back from the bye week against San Francisco a couple weeks ago. It was a little bit lower than that this past week against Atlanta, but that was the theme last year as well. When they got back from the bye week, it was all CeeDee Lamb all the time in the pass game. So an incredibly high target share for him.
And is he still very, very heavily slot?
They move him around a little bit more, but it's a lot of quick game. It's not as much of a vertical offense, and so he's been one of the best yards after catch receivers in football this year. They want to try, and they can be creative with how they move him around. But I would say, like in years past, they've done more fun stuff with him in terms of like put him in motion and, we're going to get him in the backfield and have him run angle routes out of the backfield. This year, it's a little bit more kind of cut and dry, basic, like it's slant flat and, kind of run him on shallow crosses and things like that. But you get the ball in his hands, he can be very, very dangerous.
What about from a Vic Fangio standpoint?
Okay.
We've seen him put together different kinds of game plans this season. What kind of game plan do you expect?
Yeah, I would say so. I had a thought when it was Dak Prescott. All right, so I start these notes. I always look at the future opponent like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of the previous week and start those notes. Yeah, well, so I had all these notes on our.
I love that. I respect it. I'm not. There's no condescension. I love that.
I say that to make the point that I had all of this stuff written down.
Right.
All right, these would be my keys to the game. If it were Dak Prescott, I had to rewrite a bunch of that for if it was Cooper Rush. And so, to me, I think that before, when I look back at what I thought they would do against Dak, I thought it would be similar to what they did against Joe Burrow, where you're going to kind of throw some, a wide variety of things at him from a coverage standpoint, from a pressure standpoint, and kind of keep him on his toes that way. Dak is a very cerebral quarterback. He's really, really good in the pre-snap phase. And so you want to try and mix things up and be unpredictable that way. I don't think you need to do that as much with Cooper Rush. I think here, now you want to kind of focus on some pressure. I think that you want to try and see if you can kind of speed that process up. So that might be some of those blitzing looks that we've seen. It might be more zone exchange blitzes with Nakobe Dean rushing and the defensive ends dropping out, trying to get him off of his spot early and then make them roll the dice and see if you can get to him that way.
All right.
Are you expecting Mingo to factor into this game at all?
No. Okay. I would be surprised. Look, they
gave up a fourth. Because you talk about how they have no one outside of Lamb.
Right.
Presumably, when you give up a fourth for a wide receiver, you're expecting that guy to be a starter for you.
Yeah, I would. If this were like 2 or 3 weeks from now, I think so. But I can't imagine on a short week that he's going to have that turnaround to be ready to roll. The other guys in that receiving core that they are throwing the ball to right now, Jalen Tolbert, certainly the tight end, Terrence Ferguson, or Jake Ferguson, rather. When you look at in terms of targets, so CeeDee Lamb has 89 targets. After that, Jake Ferguson has 53. Jalen Tolbert has 44, and then it's another big drop to Kevontae Turpin, who has 27. It's so finely focused to CeeDee Lamb. And then after that, like I said, it's Ferguson, the tight end, and a lot of that is underneath, middle of the field, kind of safety blanket throws. Jalen Tolbert's an outside the numbers vertical guy, and so they'll kind of toss up some vertical routes to him at times, but that's been very mixed results so far this season. And Turpin is the only guy that's got real juice outside of CeeDee Lamb, and he's really, really dynamic. He's made some plays against the Eagles in the past, so you want to be alert for that kind of stuff with him as well.
We all silly like the mayor.